This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 442 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. What's the quality of life with no skin? Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad, Joyce. Let's start off like a virtual table and see who joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello. And man, 442. Interesting last two digits.
They may or may not have been used in this particular season.
Yeah.
Protocol 42, anybody? Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe not.
Well, I'm also thinking of a certain author and a movie.
Well, yeah, but
a certain guide to the galaxy.
Yeah, but that really doesn't have anything to do with time.
I know, but still.
I think you might be making a bit of a stretch, but
I know. Well, hey. Fandom related.
But whenever it shows up, you know what it means.
Yeah.
Yes. You're just gonna be like, I understand that. There's a reference there.
I understood that.
There could be a reference without a connection. Those two are not have to be connected or something. It's weird being a fan of stuff. Makes your brain do weird things. Oh, so with that, we don't actually have any fandom news. It's been kind of quiet, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's calming down for the holidays, taking some time, kicking their feet up, just chilling. So there's that. That being said, we are in a new month now, so that means book club update. Yes.
So the book for the month, considering it's the month of December, the voting went the way I thought it was going to. So our book for the month is 10 Days of Christmas, Festive Tales with the 10th Doctor.
Imagine that.
Yep. And then books for January poll is The Rebellion on Treasure Island, 11th Doctor story. And then I thought with the Celestial Toymaker making a return, why not some Big Finish featuring him or possibly him? So our choices are the Celestial Toymaker, the audio version narration with William Hartnell, the Magic Mousetrap, and the Nightmare Fair. The Magic Mousetrap is a 7th Doctor story, and the Nightmare Fair is a 6th Doctor.
It is a 6th Doctor that never got filmed.
Right.
That was supposed to be a TV episode that they never got around to doing.
Yes, that's from the Lost Vault section in the big
that
finish.
The impetus for the Lost Stories collection or series of Big Finish is just scripts that are even they got to the point where it's story ideas that never were filmed, and sometimes they're like just they're like, oh, here's this idea, so we'll do the script from scratch. But the Nightmare Fair is one that they had the TV script, so they just adapted it for audio, and it's actually quite good. So if you're wanting to get into the Lost Stories of Doctor Who, that is a very good place to begin.
Yes. So voting is now open until the end of the month.
And, not to necessarily show my hand too much, but if the Nightmare Fair doesn't win for next month, that's okay. I have a birthday in February.
True. Yeah.
I'm just saying it might end
Yeah.
up being covered anyway.
I don't think two certain someones would mind reviewing that story.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yep. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, yeah, I kind of probably know which one Rachel's going to vote for.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if it doesn't win, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Well,
turn around next month and...
Rachel, who says you can't double dip?
Well, that's true. That is true. We have done a Big Finish audio and then turned around and did it in the book club. So,
yeah,
that is very true.
It's not unheard.
No.
Yep. So, I'm just saying.
I know.
It's on the list. So that's really it. But that being said, this actually works out kind of well because then I'm not eating up a bunch of time talking about my adventure in Ohio over the weekend to GalaxyCon in Columbus.
Nice.
Again. So it was just me this time. Chauncey wasn't able to go. So I left late Friday morning, and it was cold, it was rainy, not the best driving weather, for mood at the very least. But it is what it is. I drove out there and got to the hotel, stayed at the Hilton again. So stayed at the same hotel we stayed at last time. And got checked in and got the car unloaded and all that fun stuff. And then went and got my badge and pretty much immediately went and it was almost about time for me to go get in line for my photo op with Evangeline Lilly at that point. So I had a little bit of time to wander the vendor hall. I saw one person I knew in the process of going to get my badge, and I was like, I'll see you later. And then went and got my photo op with Evangeline Lilly. Fairly straightforward as far as photo ops are concerned. She's very nice. So, it was kind of fun though, because I exited the curtain area where they're doing the photos, and as I was walking out, they were pushing Richard Dreyfuss in a wheelchair in for his photo op, which was taking place in the section right next door. So that was kind of cool. I saw Richard Dreyfuss for a hot second.
Cool.
And then I figured, by then it was, after 5, but I was like, odds are Evangeline's probably going to go back to her booth and sign more autographs. So I went ahead and went and got back in line. And the wait wasn't too long. It was not terrible. Got up, got her signature on my Marvel canvas art thing. So that was fun. She complimented me on my outfit. She said I look cute. So yay, thank you. Yay. And then I could have wandered some more, but at that point I was hungry. So it was like,
don't blame you.
Yeah, and I wanted to go to the Rocky Horror Show screening. So I was like, okay, I have just enough time to go get something to eat and then get down to the hall that they were using for the screening. So, although since it was Friday evening and it was not that busy, when I walked by Barry Bostwick's booth, he actually bought like a big comfy chair for him to sit in.
Smart thinking.
Yeah.
Smart thinking.
Yeah, man, he's a third years. But I did stop by, say hi. I like to stop and say hi to him when he's at events, because we go way back, all the way to PopCon Fort Wayne.
Yes.
Where like 3 people showed up. So we had a nice little chat. Seeing how see how he's doing. He's fine. Still hawking the underwear, among other things. So, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. So
stick with what works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I told him, I said, I got a pair. It's still hanging proudly on my wall in our apartment. When you come into our apartment, it's right there. So, he thought he was glad to hear that. So I ended up going just to one of the restaurants in the hotel, that is quote unquote supposed to be like a sports bar. I don't know how many sports bars only have like 4 televisions for showing sports, and half of them, and then half of them were showing college basketball, and the other half were showing hockey. So, which, what else are you gonna watch on a Friday evening, I guess?
True.
But it was nice enough. I sat at the bar. The guy that waited on me, who was also working behind the bar, he was very nice, very friendly. I had the short rib poutine, which was very good. So I have no complaints there. Use the term poutine very lightly, because anytime you just take French fries and drizzle gravy on them and throw cheese on it, technically you can call it poutine. So yeah, then I went down to they were using the main stage area for Rocky Horror, which they have a group that does this on the regular, does the Shadowcast type thing. It's a group called Pineapple Shaped Lamp. They're from North Carolina. And for those that are uninitiated, a Rocky Horror Shadowcast is different than just going to a movie theater and watching Rocky Horror Picture Show. You have a group of actors, usually, who dress up each one gets a different part. They dress appropriately for their characters, and depending on the layout of the theater, usually they perform at the front of the house, in front of all the seats. Sometimes there's a stage. In this case, there was a stage, and so the screens were on both sides of the stage. The last time I went to one, it was a much smaller venue, so it was more like a movie theater. So then they just went down and were on the ground right in front of the screen. Hence Shadowcast, because in theory their silhouettes would get cast on the screen as the projector is shining on them onto the screen. And you could go online and look for scripts. There's a general, because this has been going on since Rocky Horror became a thing back in the 70s. So there's a general consensus of what the audience participation involves. However, it can vary from market to market, and the group leading the Shadowcast, and your own personal experiences, what kind of lines, because it's a whole thing where usually the people usually have baggy of props they use for certain things. I'm not going to spoil it. even though this has been going on for more than 50 years, I'm still not going to spoil it, because if you go for the first time, you're a virgin and there's initiations. Again, that's going to vary from market to market on what the initiation involves. But yeah, there's props to get used at certain points. There are lines that get yelled by the cast and or the audience. Some are running gags, some are for very particular scenes. In this case, actually, Pineapple Shaped Lamp, they have done their own custom edit of the film. So you still get the full film experience, but they've added some stuff that you might not necessarily get if you went if you went somewhere else. So it's a unique experience every time you go, especially if you go to different places and with different groups. So, but of course, Barry is there, so they have him come out and say a few words before the show starts, and then the movie starts and we get into the whole thing. It was really cool to be in a group of like-minded people doing the time warp in the middle of this theater, among other things. So, it's I need to take Chauncey to one of these things, especially because he'll be a virgin at it. So, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I love Rocky Horror. That's one of those movies that, is just one that I can just pop in, and, I don't necessarily need to be paying attention to it because I know it forwards and backwards and upside down. But it was a lot of fun, especially with Barry there, to be able to do a little introduction at the beginning. Which I have video of that. I'll have to put a language warning. So bad language used by a lot of people, not just Barry Bostwick, but a lot of people involved, myself included. I'm an adult. I can do these things. But then it was over and I was like, okay, good night. I'm going to bed. So I was back in my room and crashed. So then the next day I got up and put on just regular clothes for the morning. Went to the Starbucks. There's one Starbucks attached to the convention center, so of course it was hopping. But that's okay. It's always fun to see a line at Starbucks and to see like various people cosplaying. Like, so Darth Vader, he's a double latte kind of guy. Okay, cool. And then I immediately went down and got in line for Charlie Cox because he was not there Friday. He didn't arrive till Saturday. And for those that are like, Charlie Cox, who's that? Well, then obviously you've never watched the Netflix Marvel series and somehow missed him in Spider-Man as well. He is the MCU's Daredevil /
and She-Hulk.
Matt Murdock. So Avocado Atlaw.
Yes, one of our two favorites.
Yes, exactly. But Charlie's line was huge.
Not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for him. I even said that when I got up there. I was like, last time I met you, which was a long time ago, when like we had was like the first. I don't even know if the Defenders had come out yet, or I think they were maybe getting ready to. So that tells you how long ago it was. So they've obviously, as the MCU has gotten more popular, and they've taken these, at least as far as Matt Murdock and Kingpin are concerned, properly brought them into the MCU. That obviously they are getting a bit more popular. So yeah, I even said that to him when I got up. I'm like, last time I met you, your line was not this long. And he's like, is that a good thing? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a good thing. I think you're doing a good job. So, but yeah, I waited for 2 hours for
Wow.
Charlie. And that was with him there signing on the regular, you know. It's just really Saturday. I even posted a picture of my view when I was like the last person, you know, I was at the back of the line on our Instagram. And it's like Saturdays at conventions are traditionally the busiest. I don't know, Christy could attest to this probably as well.
Yeah, yes,
Uh,
it is hopping.
yeah, but this particular Saturday was kind of ridiculous. Like, I have not been in a crowd like that since I don't know when. Like, I have not felt like this is like stupid. Why am I subjecting myself to all these people type crowds? Probably since like Gen Con's anniversary year or something. Like, it was busy. And a lot of that, Saturdays are generally the busiest because one, that's usually the day that you can catch most of the celebrities. That's the day that even if they're not there the entire weekend, that is a weekend or that the day of the weekend that they are going to be there. That's also the day that's most convenient for most people. For a majority of people, Saturday is their free day. It's the day off work. It's the day before the day that a lot of people go to church, and usually that's the day that the convention is open the longest, so they can get the most bang for their buck as far as entry is concerned. That's usually the heaviest cosplay day, so if you're really excited to either see cosplayers or cosplay yourself, that is also the day to go. And in this case, I think it was just a combination of all of that. Because there were a lot of celebrities that there were some that were only there for Saturday, and then there were some that they didn't arrive until Saturday and were going to be there Saturday, Sunday. So like Mike Tyson was only there on Saturday. Paula Abdul was only there on Saturday. Granted, saying these names is just really weird. Even though I was there and I saw some of these people, I still was like, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this a thing that you're at? I don't understand. But yeah, whatever. More power to them. Make that money however you can, I guess. And so Charlie had quite the line. And then of course Vincent D'Onofrio's table was right next to him. So a lot of people were doing Charlie and then immediately going over to Vincent. So or vice versa. They were getting Vincent D'Onofrio's and then coming over and getting in Charlie's line. Which Vincent was there last year. So, if you'd gone last year, you didn't need to necessarily get his autograph. Again, if you were going to have something where his and Charlie's signatures were going to be on both, which was the case for me. I already had Vincent's autograph from last year. But yeah, it's just that, I'm sure that the people that play in these things and figure out like the layout for the celebrity booths and how you're going to group them together and who you're going to put next to, whoever, is not easy. Yeah. I'm sure it's like planning the seating chart for like the Met Gala or something, and, putting Vincent next to Charlie made sense. Wilson Fisk, Matt Murdock. They had Evangeline further down the line, in between Grant Gustin, who was again only there on Saturday, and on the other side of her was Emil and Colin from Once Upon a Time, who didn't arrive until Saturday. But Evangeline was on Lost, so it's like ABC show, Once Upon a Time, also ABC show. Yeah. So it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then you got a lot of voice actors. You had Tara Strong. You had Steve from Blue's Clues, which obviously he had a line, as you do, because he's Steve from Blue's Clues. A lot of the anime voice actors. They tend to put them together. Your not necessarily anime, but still voice actors. So like, whoever, Bill Farmer,
Yeah.
would be there. You put Steve Whitmire, who, Kermit the Frog, next to the guy who apparently did Bear in the Big Blue House. So, they had, a chunk of the cast from Boy Meets World, not counting Boy himself.
Yeah, I imagine.
Mr. Savage, because apparently he does not do these things. And Mr. Feeney is 5 million years old, so he can stay at home and put him in a bubble. So. Protect Feeney at all costs.
Yes.
Oh. But you could definitely tell it's also kind of a generational thing. Because, like, I even put that in our chat on Friday. It was like, there was, like, one voice actor from One Piece, and they had a super long line, probably had 30 people. Most of them look like they're not even old enough to vote yet, waiting, to meet this person. Yet you had the cast of Boy Meets World, and there was nobody at their tables. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously this is a generational thing. It's like, your parents obviously dropped you off and did not stay. Because if they were here, odds are they were probably going to get, Danielle Fishel's autograph.
Yes.
And marvel at her hair. I heard so many people just in the crowds talking about how amazing her hair is. But she does have amazing hair. She's had amazing hair since she played Topanga. So. But so yeah, that was I spent all of the morning into the early afternoon waiting in line to meet Charlie, and by the time that was done, I was like, okay, well, I need to go back to the room and have a costume change. Literally. I had to get out of my civilian clothes and put on my cosplay because I had signed up for the cosplay contest, and had to go get prejudged at 3:00. So I went back to the room, got all gussied up, put on my gender bent steampunk Sixth Doctor cosplay, and then went back down. I had a little bit of time to kill. So I kept going by Zan's husband's booth, and Friday night Zan was not there, and I knew she was not there. It was funny because when I did walk by, Chris happened to be on the phone with her, telling her how to restart their water heater because it had gone out.
No.
So,
ouch.
Nice.
Yeah. So, which they said that theirs has been on the fritz for a while, but their insurance won't replace it until it actually goes out and stays out. So they're just kind of like dealing with it, reset it, restarting it every time it goes out. So, but yeah, on Saturday, I'm like, it's like, okay, I know Zan's going to be here at some point. Obviously Chris was at his table. Charles Skaggs was also there.
Cool.
Off doing, getting his autographs. He had to complete his Flash universe autograph collection. But the problem was, once you were inside the vendor hall, there was no cell phone signal. Like, you couldn't even send a text message.
That's
let alone get on social media or anything else. So trying to keep in touch so that Zan could be like, oh, I'm back at Chris's table now. And Charles could, be like, oh, I'm over here, but I'll come back in like 10 minutes or whatever. Trying to negotiate us meeting up was not easy when there's no signal. Because there were just too many people.
Like one great
system was just
dead spot.
Absolutely overwhelmed, yes. So like at one point, like they had one of like the side doors open to the outside, and I'm like standing there with my phone like up in the air trying to send a message to Chauncey, letting him know that he may not be able to get a hold of me because there was no signal. So
smoke signals.
yeah, it was a kind of a pain in the tuchus. So eventually it's like, okay, eventually it's like, okay, I gotta go for prejudging. And you know, the time slot they given me, I was at 3:00. So I got there at right on the dot at 3:00, and they were like, yeah, we're still running behind from this morning. I'm like, okay.
You know, after being slightly involved in prejudging of cosplay contests, that's just par for the course. Do not expect a cosplay prejudging to go on time. It just doesn't happen. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is my first time ever doing a cosplay contest that did prejudging like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I did, what was that, Lexington?
Yeah.
They like came through the room, you know, like an hour before the costume contest was to start, and gave us, you know, we each got like 30 seconds to sell our, you know, our costume essentially to the judges. Yeah, but I'd never done a contest where they did prejudging like this so far in advance. Mm-hmm. And they just kept getting further and further behind. So by the time, you know, like there was like, you know, one or two people ahead of me in line waiting for their go, you know, people were poking their head out the door going, yeah, you're going to get like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's a thing that's going to happen. And the thing is like when I signed up, you know, they sent a email message saying, you know, this is your this is your contestant number. This is the time slot you need to come for prejudging. This is what this is what's going to be required of you prejudging. They're like, you know, we want reference photos, you know, for whatever character it's based on. If you've got progress photos from the construction, we want those, you know, that sort of thing. So it's like I had like photos on my phone ready to go. I had hand drawings that I had done when I was originally making this costume. Like I was ready to go. And then they were like, yeah, you got a minute and a half. So it's like I get in and they're asking me a few questions. None of them ever really got up to look at anything up close. You know, they had me like, you know, turn in a circle, ask me about a few things, and then that was it. And then I was out the door. So, you know, I can't say this, you know, for if this is even fact, but this was my concern, is that those of us at the tail end of prejudging, I don't know if we got as fairly judged as those who got earlier time slots and in theory had more time. Is my concern. So, you know, I don't know if that's the case, but that's the impression I got. Yeah, from when I got there, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna have like 1.5 to like 3 to 4 minutes, and then by the time it's like me, they're like, yeah, you got a minute and a half, and I'm like, how am I supposed to sell this costume that I've literally put my blood, sweat, and tears into in a minute and a half? You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. You know, that's I've been on the judging side, but I've never had to do prejudging because the contest is small enough that we, you know, if we had questions, we did it during the contest because the number was so small of contestants. So that was not an issue, but whatever. So an hour later, I'm finally free to go. They gave me you know, my number where I'm going to be in line once they line us up and what time I needed to report to the main stage area. And I was like, okay, great. And thankfully I was able to get a little bit of signal because the room they were using was near the exit doors. facing outside one of the streets. So I was actually able to get a text message from Zan saying, I'm at the table. I don't know where Charles is. And Aaron is here too. And I'm like, okay, as soon as I'm done with prejudging, I will be there. So then I, screw it. At this point, I'm starving, but I was like, okay, I need to go back. So, I go back to Chris's booth. Zan is there. I was telling her about the prejudging, and she's like, yeah, Aaron wandered off. I don't know where Charles is. And I'm like, and she's like, I want to go. She wanted to go do something. She needed to make a phone call, which means she needed to go outside to be able to get a signal. I was like, I am starving, and everywhere inside here it looks like freaking Disneyland, the lines. So it's like, I'm going to go outside of the convention center and see if I can find someplace to eat quickly. Which I did. I went to a restaurant across the street that actually Chauncey and our friend Alan and I ate at last year. Thankfully I was able to shimmy again up to the bar and order food. The place is called Agave and Rye. And technically they are a taco and margarita place. However, I use the term taco very, very loosely. Because their thing is, we're going to call them tacos, but really it's just handheld food that's vaguely shaped like a taco. And in some cases, they're still so stuffed you might not be able to hold them by your hands and you have to use a knife and fork. Because my taco, all of their tacos are a hard shell and then surrounded by a soft shell. So as your hard shell falls apart, in theory, the soft shell will catch, all the bits. But my taco, other than the taco shells, the filling was macaroni and cheese with white cheddar, Nashville hot sauce, a strip of fried chicken, and diced sweet pickles. That was my taco.
Interesting.
It was very good. But again, I use the term taco very loosely. I also had a margarita. Because at that point, like, my back was hurting, my feet were hurting, and it's like, even though the corset helps with the back support, it's like, I love cosplaying, but it's not easy on the body. No matter how comfy your cosplay may be. There's just something about wearing clothes that aren't like normal everyday clothes that your body's just like, extra work. So I inhaled my food. Oh, and tater tots. And I say tater tots, again, I use the term tater tot very loosely. Because these tater tots, when they set them in front of me, I was a little confused at first. Because there were only 6 on my plate, and that is because each one was the size of an egg roll.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Holy potato laser Batman.
Yes. Yeah. So, I'm not complaining. No. I'm just saying, you read their menu and read the description, and I don't think necessarily it's going to give you the most accurate picture of what you're getting.
Right.
So, that being said, it's really good food, and we actually have one now in downtown Indianapolis, so we need to go check that one out. I'm sure the menu is probably the same. So you are not
going to go hungry. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly.
They're well fed.
Yes. And their menu had changed since last year, because last year I had a taco that was essentially a pizza inside the taco shells, and it was not on the menu this year, so they must have got rid of it, which is kind of sucks. But at the same time, probably a good thing, because eating anything with red sauce while in cosplay probably would have been a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe avoid that if at all possible.
Yeah. So I inhale my food, wash my hands, go to the bathroom, because thankfully, bathroom, low traffic, nice clean bathroom, a little on the old side, but that's okay. wash my hands because at that point they smelled like tater tots. So go back over to the convention center, go back to Chris's booth, and Zan is not to be seen, but Chris is there. But Chris is like, she'll be right back. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm standing there hanging out, and this person walks up to me with a big grin on their face. It's Aaron, our good friend and supporter of the show, Aaron, who sends us in feedback quite a bit, both to us and Gold Standard. So we finally got to meet. Zan and I signed his Gold Standard t-shirt, and I signed his Fangirls t-shirt.
Nice.
He said that he'll have to, he looks forward to, getting the rest of y'all's signatures whenever the opportunity presents itself. So, but yeah, we sat there and talked about podcasting and this and the other, and Zan came and we chatted some more. We got some pictures posted on Instagram as well. So that was fun, to chat with him and to catch up with Zan. Just chit-chatted while the throngs of people are milling around us, because again, it was still very crowded. And then I had to go to report for the cosplay contest. So, back over to the main stage area where it was like herding cats, trying to get us in the right order. But they did. They managed to do that, and then they got us in and behind the stage, which was nice, because that meant we could see and hear everything. Because you can see the screens from the backside, just everything's backwards. So we were able to, as every contestant got called up to the stage, we could see them, even if they were backwards, which was really cool, and hear all the audience clap and everything. I recognized some faces, being part of the cosplay community. There's a number of people that I've seen at other conventions like PopCon and Gen Con and the like, that are very, very good. There were some very, very good cosplays in all three categories. They had the novice, which is your beginners, your journeyman, which is my category, where you've got a few years of experience under your belt. You've competed before. You've maybe won an award or two. And then you have your masters, which are like your professionals. They're your master costumers and prop builders and stuff like that. And there were really good costumes in all three categories. So, I was not entering thinking like, oh, I'm going to win this. It was more, I'd never done a cosplay contest at a convention that size before, and I wanted to see what it was like. The people that won, especially in the Masters category, no surprises there. It's like, yep, you win a lot. I've seen you win in other places. Yep, that's par for the course. But I had fun. I will say, they definitely get GalaxyCon, in particular, the people running this particular con, helping with the cosplay contest, definitely get a couple of gold stars in my book for, while we're waiting backstage, they were passing out bottles of water if people needed it, which was nice. I already had one, but still, the gesture was nice. They had people, there were a few people that they had their helper, with them if they needed assistance with their cosplay. Because some people, they're very particular about who helps them, and they may not, they're like, I only trust this person, to handle my props or whatever. But if you're like, if you had stuff with you that was not part of your cosplay, you don't necessarily take it on stage with you. So if you had like a backpack or something, there was someone there that as you got closer to getting up on stage, she would take your stuff and she would run it all the way to the other side. And there would be someone on the other side there to help you down the steps and also help you collect your stuff. So your stuff would be there waiting for you once you got off the stage. and then they could lead you to a seat out in the audience to watch the rest of the show, which was really nice. So I wish other cosplay contests were done like that. Looking at you, Lexington. So, but yeah, they gave out awards for kids, all 3 categories, novice, journeyman, masters. Each of the judges gave out a Judge's Choice Award. There's a Founders Award from the guy that started this particular event, the GalaxyCon there in Columbus. And then they gave a best in show. And they've got the winners, all the award winners are on the Facebook page and on their Instagram, I believe, as well. They've got the winners' photos up on there, so you can go see who won, and I'm sure you'll immediately see why they won, because they're really good. Some really good cosplays out there. So as soon as that was over, I'm like, okay, I'm going back to my room and getting out of this monkey suit.
Do not blame you.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, the corset, it's great for the back support, great for your posture. I will give it that. But also having the layers underneath that, and then, I'm wearing multiple skirts. I've got on knee-high boots. I got the hats. I got all the accessories. It's like after a while, it just gets warm. So, yeah. I get back to the room and get, undoctorified while watching Doctor Who. That was nice. To be able to go back to my room and watch Saturday's episodes while getting dressed down. And then, I got my stuff collected, so it was a bit more orderly, because in the morning I knew I had to check out and take all my stuff back to the car, so I wanted to make it as easy on myself as possible. So I got up this Sunday morning and managed to get dressed, packed everything down to the car, and loaded in the car, and dropped off my key within an hour of my alarm going off, which I'm really impressed with myself, because I really did not want to get up at all. So, at that point, I am so tired. My poor feet. The bottoms of my feet are so tired. But as soon as I got that done, I went back to the convention center and properly walked up and down the vendor area, because I'd not been able to do that. It was so busy that Saturday. It's like you couldn't see anything. You could barely see your feet if you look down at the floor, because there were just bodies everywhere. So I held off on most of my shopping till yesterday. And I was good. I only bought a few things for myself, but I did buy some Christmas presents for some other people, which is why I did not post all of my purchases on social media, because I don't want to ruin the surprise. And then saw Zan again, and Charles. Finally, Charles showed up. And then Chris actually had to go and do a panel on Black Panther. So Zan was watching his table for him. So I took a chair, and then Charles took the other chair. So we all just sat there and kind of chatted, and occasionally someone who says Zan would stop by, and she'd introduce us and that sort of thing. But no, we just kind of caught up. We talked about Saturday's episode of Doctor Who. Talked about the convention and how they both would wish that Chauncey was there, but they understood, because he's still up to his eyeballs in work. We were hoping that Nick would make it this year, but unfortunately he didn't. So hopefully maybe next year. So yeah, it was just nice to kind of sit and chat for 45 minutes. Whatever. Showed off our purchases. Charles showed us some of his autographs that he got. We talked about Star Trek, all sorts of things. So, and then I had to meet Alan, and I agreed to meet up to eat so I could get a decent meal in before hitting the road. So we went to Barley's, which is also across the street from the convention center on the same side of the street as Agave and Rye. But I had eaten there last year with Charles and his wife. So I knew the food was good. And it was a place to sit down, eat some decent food. I knew they had Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
I had an ulterior motive, so
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So Alan and I, we got a place to sit, and I connected the Wi-Fi, and then proceeded to have the Inter Milan game on for the 2 hours while we ate. So, which Alan and I, we talked about the weekend. We talked about convention experiences and our plans for conventions next year. Unfortunately, I'm not likely to see him again probably till sometime next summer because Indie PopCon this coming April is the same weekend as C2E2 up in Chicago. And Alan is like, yeah, I'm going to go to C2E2. And I'm like, that's totally fine. It's your money. Spend it how you want. Your time. So, I've got friends that I'm not likely to see for a hot minute because they're going to go to C2E2 instead. Which is just the nature of the game. And as more conventions pop up, we're going to reach probably a boiling point at some, at some point where there's just going to be so many options and people are going to be forced to choose, Sophie's choice of which convention you're going to go to. So, especially with the smaller, the smaller conventions that can't lock down multiple years in advance. I talked about this last episode when talking about the updates to PopCon and how they had to Louisville has changed dates and locations, but talking about how Indy is now, it's going to be in April when it was just in August, so it's like that's kind of a quick turnaround for the same convention to be less than, was that like what, less than 10 months. So so it's a kind of quick turnaround, but PopCon does not have the pull with the convention center that an event like Gen Con does, because they're just Gen Con brings in a shit ton of money for the city. They're they're signed on contract wise for the next bazillion years. So the convention center is going to be like, whatever weekend you want, Gen Con, you've got it. They're going to get first dibs, and other conventions like Indiana Comic Con and PopCon are, left with whatever's available. So it's like, are you Gen Con? No. Are you the FFA? No. Are you the Firefighters Convention? No. Okay, in that case, you're going to have to wait and see what's left in the calendar. So, but yeah, we had a nice chat. Time to catch up, which is always good. 'Cause that's something you really get to do at the convention. It's nice to see friends, faces that, this is like the time you get to see them because of distance, where they live, where you live, that sort of thing. But you don't necessarily get to sit down and chat for a decent amount of time. So being able to sit in like Chris's booth with Dan and Charles for a while was nice. Being able to sit down and chat with, Alan for a while was nice. And our experiences in Inter Milan won 3-0. So that's also a good thing. Got some good food, and then I got on the road and got home yesterday evening and about passed out because I was tired. I was tired pup. Very, very tired. But I had fun, and I stuck to my budget, which is always good, down to the exact dollar.
Nice.
So I had so many dollars with me, and I spent all of them, but nothing over. So
That's good.
I will call that a win.
Yes.
So I like this con. I'm glad that the celebrity guest list was not as expensive to my wallet as it was last year. Mm. That being said, who knows who they'll get last year? Because again, some of these guests, like at one point, I think that was while I was standing in line for Charlie, and Charlie was like halfway down the wall or something like that. So we could see from one end to the other, and when she hit the corner and started going, along the perpendicular wall, it was Ric Flair, who's a wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
Ron Perlman, Pete Rose, Mr. Sorry I Bet on Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
Paula Abdul, Mike Tyson, and Michael Rooker is the booths I could see from where I was standing. And I'm like, what is this combination of celebrities? I don't understand. And then Joey Fatone, which apparently Joey Fatone is good friends with the people that run Robot Chicken. And I guess he's kind of made a name for himself doing that. And that's why he was there. But still, I'm like, you're Joey Fatone. You're an NSYNC. Why are you here?
Not too much of a connecting thread between all of the guests.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, okay, whatever. This is the thing now that's happening. It also makes me feel old too, because it's like, I knew who I remember vaguely Paula Abdul from like the 80s, early 90s, but mostly I remember, she came back in the spotlight when she was one of the judges on American Idol, which I watched when Idol first started. I was like a religious watcher for like the first like 4 seasons. So Paula was on my TV every week. I guess, Mike Tyson because of The Hangover, I guess. I don't know. The wrestlers, I get there's a bit of an overlap with geeky fans and wrestling fans. There's a bit of a Venn diagram overlap there. So, although, seeing some, I've never watched wrestling, but I recognize some of the faces, like Ric Flair and Sergeant Slaughter and Mick Foley, which poor Mick Foley, time has not been good to him. I saw him getting off an elevator. Poor guy. Wrestling, it's a great gig if you can make money at it, but it's not easy on the old body there. So yeah, who knows what kind of guests they'll have next year? Other than Barry Bostwick, he'll probably be there again. Who knows who else they're gonna get? Oh, but I look forward to it. It's a fun convention. The people that run it are great. It's run really well. I don't know if it was, the fact that I could come to it and see people, get to meet up with people like Zan and Charles, and the like is really nice. That's an added bonus. To have that to look forward to know you're going to see friends and familiar faces and make face-to-face acquaintances with people you've only known on the internet.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be not quite the same dates next year because it's always the first full weekend in December, and however December starts next year. So it's actually December 6th through 8th. Next year. So if you want to put that on your calendar, you can, because odds are I will be there at the very least to see Zan and her husband and other people I know. So it's cool. It's a good con. I ended up busier than I thought I was going to be, and I still never got to any panels, even though I made sure not to overschedule myself. I'm like, I'm gonna do panels. I'm gonna go 10 panels this time, and it's like Rocky Horror. That's the only thing I made it to. Well, I'll try again next year.
You do your best.
The words of Danny Glover. I'm too old for this shit.
Good old Lethal Weapon.
Yep. But it's all good. So, speaking of friends on the internet, we've got feedback. So,
Yay.
here's some feedback from Shalane. And I should say, between Shalane's feedback and Aaron's, potential spoilers for the Marvels. So, yeah, if you're concerned about that, you might want to fast forward. But that being said, she says, another thing I forgot to mention about Frozen and Once Upon a Time with Wizard of Oz was Zelena disguised herself as Maid Marian. I don't know why they didn't explain about why the Snow Queen froze her, or just don't know. I don't remember. Do you remember, Chrissy?
Or
Holly?
don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
Which was really funny because at one point when I was standing in line for something, and the people next to me were talking about Once Upon a Time and the seasons and which ones were good and which ones were not. But even they were struggling to remember what plot lines were from what season.
Well, and it's been such a long time since I've done a rewatch, and then sometimes, depending on what was going on, sometimes it seemed like the story threads and seasons just kind of overlapped, or you got them reversed.
I remember. Okay, so there's the first season, which is obviously, everyone's cursed and they got to break the curse. Second season is Hook, and then the third season was split up between Peter Pan and Wicked. And then the was Frozen and the
Queens of Darkness.
And the fifth was Dark Swan.
Yep.
And then after that,
we had Rumpel's storyline.
Yeah, they kind of run together after that for me.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually surprised I remembered that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, I am overdue for a rewatch. I've been seeing, memes or whatnot on there, or just, I don't know, just things that remind me of it, and I'm like, I want to watch it again.
And we'll just skip that last season and pretend it never happened, except for the last episode.
That one was the network.
We'll just skip to the very last episode of the last season.
Yeah, that one was the network being like, hey, we know you finished telling your story, but we need more content, so give it to us. And we're like, it's like, not necessary, man. But whatever. Yeah, that one we blame on network.
Yeah. So, sorry we don't have a better answer for you, Shalane. You may need to Google it or something. Or,
yeah, there was
I don't know. Find someone's recap video on YouTube or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? That might actually be your best bet.
Yeah. Somebody that, has a better memory than we do. So. I read that Once Upon a Time was going to have more storylines from past seasons that were going to happen later, but didn't. Yes.
Well,
I'm sure.
The showrunners are, they're always like, oh, we have this idea, this idea, this idea. Whatever reason doesn't happen. Or they just decide to do something else.
Yeah.
That's showbiz, baby.
Yeah. Like how they brought Prince Philip back from the dead and how Neil got off Neverland and ended up in New York. Yeah. The world may never know.
Right?
Yeah. Now let's get into the Marvels, a.k.a. Nick Fury's Angels. It's a Charlie's Angels. It's Nick Fury's Angels. I did love the Marvels, the best MCU trio since Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor fighting Thanos in Endgame. I do love a good movie with a good trio. Going back to my feedback on Ahsoka about my life with awesome female characters in pop culture, but that don't get enough love. Who else got me into having more girl power is Karen Hallian, because I have her She series poster. It was Wonder Woman, Black Widow, Rey, Skywalker, Leslie Knope, and Mulan. She even has a book called She Series of Women Today that's on my Christmas list. Well, I hope you get it. But anyway, let's go back to the Marvels. I still love Miss Marvel because she reminds me of me. She reminds me of me and a lot of people. I may be a lot older than Kamala Khan, but she still reminds me a lot of me. We both love Captain Marvel, and we are formerly a group of good trio or duos. When I go to the Disney parks, me and my friends are going to Disney bound the Marvels and other females of the MCU like Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, and Shuri. That's cool. We also are planning to Disney bound our favorite Disney princesses and Pixar characters and Star Wars character too. Plus, I did go back and rewatch Miss Marvel. Awesome. But let's talk about the multiverse. Since Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse came out, I wasn't sure if Marvel was planning to do a multiverse after Spider-Verse came out or before. I believe it was before, because Deadpool and X-Men are in the same verse, not in the same verse as the Avengers. Which this is my theory. Plus, Sony and Disney are tag team Spider-Man verses. Yep. If I remember correct, since No Way Home, isn't Sony doing different Spider-Verse storylines because Venom cameo in the post-credit scene in No Way Home? Yes. Something like that. Something kind of like that. So, we're not entirely sure exactly what Sony is thinking because they keep that very close to the vest. But best we can figure, yes, is there.
It seems like they're kind of just spitballing and seeing what sticks.
Yes, because at this point they legally have to, otherwise they lose the rights to Spider-Man.
Which means that they're just kind of like, throw it out there and because we gotta have something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, because
whether or not it's actually, I don't know.
Good.
Maybe they will fall. Maybe they'll fall over something that's actually decent and they work. Oh, we didn't plan that, but okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they've done that with the end of the Spider-Verse cartoon movies, but that's as I again also said, I think last week, after Morbius, the bar is very low, so it's not going to take a whole lot of effort to surpass that.
No.
So. But they want to keep those rights to Spider-Man and everything Spider-Man related. So yeah, because the MCU in general and Marvel has a multiverse, they can do all sorts of Spider-Verse related character films and not necessarily have to be in the same universe as Tom Holland's Spider-Man or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. So
whatever Spider-Man they dragged out, so it's like, hey, we need to keep our rights because screw Disney or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I mean, Spider-Man is probably arguably the most popular Marvel superhero.
Oh, he has been for years. It's Spider-Man and the X-Men are the two.
Yeah. So even the really crappy movies are going to print money. It may not be a crap ton of money, but they're still going to print money for Sony, and that's what they want. So yeah, that's what Spider-Man's doing ish, kind of. Since we had up and down in the MCU and that the strike is over, I wonder if the MCU films will finally get awesome like they used to be.
Oh wow, you're even pointing this out, Shalane? Dang.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still think it's awesome, but I'm easy to please with Marvel related stuff, so
well, it's just that there's been a lot of talk in the usual suspects being like, wait, we're allowed to say this now?
Yeah. But for this saga, like I said before, when we talked about Guardians Volume 3, we had great films like No Way Home, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Guardians Volume 3. We'll see how Deadpool 3 does next summer since it's the only MCU movie released next year since Iron Man 2. We will have the MCU miniseries next year on Disney+. Yes. We will have Echo next year. So, among other things. We get What If in a couple weeks. Woohoo!
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's all I have to say about the Marvels. I only have one more thing to ask you girls. What is wrong with the TV show and 2000 films Charlie's Angels? I don't think I ever said there was anything wrong with them. I never watched the old school show with Farrah Fawcett. I don't know.
Farrah Fawcett is amazing and awesome, and
Yeah.
it's great. And the one with Drew Barrymore, the movie, it's fine. It was there was this thing in the late 90s, early 2000s where we're like, hey, let's make, it's kind of a trend. It's like they're like there's trends in movies all the time. Let's make movies of all these old 70s TV shows, and some were fun, some were not so great, and it was just a thing, and it was a thing that happened. It was fine. I like Drew Barrymore.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna pretend.
I don't know how well they've held up, but I remember liking them at the time.
Yeah, at the time it was fun. It was a popcorn flick. It was a movie to fill a slot in the summer and make a studio a little bit of money. Wasn't gonna win any awards, and it
at least not for the movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the theme song won Beyonce a award or two. Destiny's Child.
The music in those movies, Wild Wild West was kind of a dog, but the song,
the song slaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie itself is. Especially if you've ever seen, and I've seen the original Wild Wild West. It is nothing. Obviously, nothing.
Exactly. Somebody wasn't paying too much attention when they were watching the main source material. Let's just put it that way.
It was very much like, well, who's big now? Will Smith? Okay, cast him in it, and he was great.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that, but it was...
Yeah, I mean the cast is not bad. I mean that was at the height of Will Smith's movie career. He'd done I think Men in Black and the similar
and Independence Day.
And Independence Day, and you've got Kevin Kline and Salma Hayek, I think.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
And Kenneth Branagh was the villain, and the villain was a little bit, what the heck is this? But then again, he's having fun with it. So
to see Kenneth Branagh chew the scenery like that was something to behold, I'll tell you that much.
Yes. So it's not to everyone's taste. I understand that, but it was fun. Just Anyway, but there was a trend back in the day of, now we have 80s and even 90s nostalgia, which I'm getting old. Back then it was 70s nostalgia. I can't tell you how many reruns of Match Game on Game Show Network I've watched.
Yes.
And I'm like, some of these people have already died. I don't care. I miss them.
Yeah.
They died long before I was even aware they were a thing.
Yep.
Just creators, please, oh please, oh please, oh please, keep your hands off Princess Bride and Labyrinth.
Yes.
And thank you.
Yes.
Enough said.
And Back to the Future.
Yes.
There are things you do not touch.
As long as Zemeckis stays alive, Back to the Future is fine. So we need to wrap him in bubble wrap.
How do we keep Zemeckis alive? Like, we'll even put him on ice.
Yeah.
Like, do not touch Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Probably by the time he passes, they will be like, oh well, we're past ruining the 80s. We're gonna go on and ruin the early 2000s now.
Yeah. Probably.
You can F that up. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
early 2000s were very hit and miss anyway, so
we'll have a remake of Scary Movie or something.
Yeah, probably.
Destination Anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Shalane finishes up, says, last thing, I did hear that The Flash didn't go well at the box office last summer. That's putting it mildly.
And again, I ask, you canceled Batgirl and all those animated things, yet Flash was the one that was worth keeping. Whatever.
Yep. So here are the young Avengers that we'll have, as far as I know: America Chavez, Billy and Tommy, Ironheart, and the girl from Love and Thunder, which I believe canonically her name is Love. That's what Thor was calling her. So, and that's what she's called in the credits. So, among with the others that we know from the Marvels, like Kamal Khan. And, well, as we stated last week, we'll have to wait and see whose side Miss Bishop decides to go with. So, all right, Shalane, and then from Aaron. Attention, do not run. It is safe to be eaten by the Flurkin. Hello, wonderful Fiveish hosts. I like the Marvels, which is a relief because based on the early reviews, I was slightly worried. No, I'm not talking about the stupid He-Man Woman Haters Club reviews, but the people who actually saw the movie. As wonderful as Larson is, I feel the issue with Captain Marvel is that the MCU insists on making her so strong that with each appearance, they are forced to find a way to either sideline or weaken her. Yeah, that's that is a downside that we have
that is an issue
talked about since her introduction. Is just it's great that we have Captain Marvel for a lot of reasons, but even in the comic book, she is stupidly powerful.
Well,
so.
And it's a tragic. No, it's tragic, but it's an unfortunate thing that's like when these filmmakers like, oh, we have a female superhero and she can do everything, and it's like, well, okay, but what, she's got to have some kind of weakness or flaw or something, and they just ignore it, and so all of a sudden it's like, I can't relate to this, and and then she just acts like a brat all the time. It's like, I don't like you. I don't want to hang out with you. This is supposed to be for me, quote unquote, as a female movie going person who likes this kind of stuff. It's like, I don't like this, and I don't like her. Sorry. And so you just and what was funny is it's interesting that he calls it the He-Man Woman Haters. It's like, I actually saw a statistic that most of that like 65% of the audience was dudes that went to the Marvels, and it wasn't there was like 30 whatever percent that was female. So it's like, I don't think it's the guys who are.
I think, but some guys I think really, really enjoyed it. There's a Marvel group I'm in, and it's a gentleman, as far as I know, based on their name, and their posts, and they've seen the Marvels 17 times.
Wow, cool.
I don't. Yeah. But based on that statistic, it's not guys who aren't coming to this movie. It's the ladies who are just
maybe it's all the guys that just really like cats.
Maybe, although
maybe they're there for the Flurkins, or they just really like I mean, two of our three Marvels are canonically adults, so spandex. Let's see. They went to flex her powers, but then struggled to find a villain that could fight her at her full strength. Yes, there's Thanos, but even then, she was sidelined for most of that movie. Yeah, Paris is great. Tiona Paris, not the city. However, with such a long gap between this and WandaVision, I would have been a little lost without the quick recap. Despite being the most with the role, she ends up being a bit of a third wheel trying to resolve the tension between her and Danvers. It happens in an awkward 30-second heart-to-heart, just doesn't sit right with me. Considering the mid-credit scene, I would love to see her get her own movie where she finds her way back to the main universe, X-Men in tow. Vellani is a clear standout. What I like most is that she wasn't written to be too childless to be annoying, nor too adult to make us forget that she's still younger than our typical heroes. Her setting up the Young Avengers was a hilarious throwback, even if I'm currently a little less enthusiastic about that team-up. It's an exciting prospect, but this is the third major storyline Marvel has set up, and neither of the first two, Kang and the Skrull Invasion, have truly taken off. I just wish they'd pick a story arc and commit to it. Yeah, we'll circle back to that when we get to our main topic here, especially the Kang part. Ashton as Dar-Ben gets a somewhat anticlimactic death, but otherwise she's the kind of villain I've been craving. This is the first time where the villain is a direct consequence of our hero's actions. Dar-Ben is the first to have personal vendetta against our hero, where we can see how Danvers, doing what she thought was right, destroys the life of Dar-Ben, who was only doing what she thought was right. I realize in the world of black and white, we need villains opposite our heroes, but having a justified, multi-layered villain is so refreshing. I don't think I've been so happy with an antagonist since Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame. I apologize for the link, but if it makes you feel any better, this is shorter than the one I sent to DJ Nick and Keith for what happened. Happiness and Darkness covered the movie. Take care, Aaron. Obviously, Aaron sent this before we met in person, although I told him he could send in more feedback after.
Yeah.
Zane and I were joking. Both shows are going to get feedback being like, I met them both. I don't ever want to hear from either of you ever again. They're too weird.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard from him, so.
Yeah. I guess we did not weird him out too much, so that's good. So yeah, speaking of Kang and Marvel villains,
Mhm.
we're sticking with the MCU, but we're headed back to the TVA for season 2 of Loki, which is wrapped up on Disney Plus with another roller coaster ride. How they managed to like just yank us along in only 6 episodes is beyond me. But you know, they know what they're doing, I guess. So you know, we've got a returning cast, obviously Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and then Owen Wilson as Mobius, and I don't want to butcher her name, Sophia DiMartino as Sylvie, and Gugu Mbathu-Raw as Ravonna. Obviously, Tara Strong is Miss Minutes, and Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains / Kang / Victor Timely. But we also now have the introduction or addition of Ke Huy Quan as Ouroboros, or as everybody calls him, OB.
Yep.
Which fantastic addition to the MCU. Seriously, fits
100%
right
agree.
in, especially in this particular series.
Mhm.
Something like this totally works.
Yes.
For Ke Huy Quan. So, and I guess
Yes.
it's because of his performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is how he got into this. Somebody involved in Loki saw an early screening of Everything Everywhere and was so impressed with them. They're like, we need to get this guy. Which, you know, is funny in a way because technically Disney already owns one of his performances by owning Lucas and Indiana Jones. So technically he's part of the Disney family already. It was just a long time ago that he did it. So, but this is the fallout of Sylvie killing He Who Remains at the end of the previous season, and then the fallout that comes from that. But of course, any show involving time travel, which we thankfully finally got towards the end of this particular season, but they did it in a really good way. But obviously, it was inspired by we finally got Loki getting a Groundhog Day moment. So, because honestly, I thought that was what was going to happen at the end of the first episode, is when the Loom, because of He Who Remains being dead, all of he was keeping the time. Well, according to him, he was keeping the timelines in check and making sure that the whole point of the TVA was to keep the sacred timeline that sacred, and not let it become affected by, straggling variants going off into different time, branches, creating new timelines. But he wasn't really what it was just one giant loop where eventually it would all just loop back around to him. And this allows the timelines to just kind of go. It really looks like the Doctor's big old ball of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. They call it there's a sign in one of the episodes that warns about spaghettiing. That's what they call it. But essentially, it's a big old ball of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. So spaghettification is what it's called. So
yep, when you go in too close to a black hole, that's what happens.
Yep. So everything is spaghettiifying all over the place, and there are controls that in theory could fix it, but the controls are of course password protected by He Who Remains, specifically his genetic code, or they call it their temporal aura. And with He Who Remains being dead, that means they gotta find a variant of him to be able to unlock that passcode to be able to get into the system to try and fix things. So, which OB is just like, apparently he's been like in this out of the way workshop of his for like hundreds of years, and hardly anybody visits him. So, but he's very dedicated to his work. He wrote the TVA handbook, which apparently nobody has read. Because who reads the instructions? It's like the Doctor with the instruction manual for the TARDIS. Like, nobody's going to read that. I don't know. Where's the fun in that? So, but but in the process, we figure out that at one point, Ravonna and everybody working at the TVA actually knew that they were variants, but they were happy working alongside He Who Remains and, protecting the timelines and, in theory, the universe. But then he wiped everybody's memories, except for Miss Minutes. And apparently Miss Minutes has the hots for He Who Remains.
Oh my god.
Because at one point she's trying to convince him that the two of them can work together. And she was as much of an AI as she is, and how like self-aware she is, there's still certain freedoms that she does not have that, obviously He Who Remains, that version is dead. So we've got Victor Timely as the version running around in this particular set of episodes, as trying to convince Victor Timely that he can give her those freedoms, and then the two of them together, it's very Darth Vader. We can rule the universe together, father and son. But in this case, self-aware clock AI, clock-shaped AI who has the hots for her creator, can work together as a pair to control the universe. And when he turns her down, she gets pissed. Hell hath no fury like a Miss Minute score.
Look out. Danger, Will Robinson. Big time.
It's so funny. I mean, Tara Strong, bless her, is so funny in some of this. Just because, I mean, Miss Minute, she's as free as she can be, all things considering, and she just for being this cartoon clock, she if a cartoon clock could choose scenery, she is doing
oh yeah this is one cartoon you do not want to be taken off her Christmas card list or meet in a dark alley somewhere. She means business.
I mean, when they go back to the Chicago World's Fair in the late 1800s, which you gotta love whenever especially with this particular show, but in general, when Marvel does anything period and gets to put their cast in period clothing, yeah,
They go all out.
yeah, they go all out. But seeing Tom Hiddleston in magic pants of a different era, I'm all for it. So
Owen Wilson didn't look too shabby either.
That's true. That's true. Owen Wilson is doing a very good job of holding his own in this. I saw a comment somewhere from I think it may have been from Kevin Feige, the fact that Owen Wilson is like not phased by the fact that he is part of like this huge cinematic universe. Like he's just like, I'm Owen Wilson. Wow,
I'm here.
Meanwhile, I would be Kamala Khan. But in real life, I'd be like, oh my god, I'm part of the MCU. Apparently, Owen Wilson is just like, wow, and that's it. So I love the set design for the World's Fair. They did a really good. Apparently, they built sets that were all the like 360 degrees, so they could do wide shots, and no matter which way the camera was facing, it would be facing set that was part of the World's Fair. So that was really cool. And then, of course, the 80s McDonald's.
Oh, I know.
Sylvie ends up at and is working behind the cash register. Which they got someone from McDonald's.
That I remember.
They got someone from
then.
McDonald's to help them recreate. McDonald's gave them authentic 80s bits and pieces like straw dispensers and cash registers. The only thing they could not get were uniforms.
Oh wow!
Apparently, their costume designer could not find 80s McDonald's uniforms to buy.
Oh wow!
So they had to make them completely from scratch. Wow! So, and they wanted to make sure that this particular McDonald's had a drive-through because by the 80s, drive-throughs were becoming very popular.
All it was missing was the McDonald's birthday cake with the sugar decorations and the sprinkles. Let's just put it that way. Yes, I may or may not have had a birthday party there when I was younger. 1 year for a birthday. Like, what do you want to do?
I'm pretty sure my 80s birthdays were at the roller skating rink, so that's a whole other ball of wax. Oh my. But I mean, really it comes down to they just kind of need to stop the universe from imploding.
Yeah, imploding
because the temporal loom, which is usually what helps keep all the timelines straight, can't handle all these new branches. So, they pluck Victor Timely from, his time period, and he and OB work together, which is really kind of a bootstrap paradox thing when you think about it. This is exactly you take the TVA manual that has OB's, face and name on it as the author. And that is the exact same as the doctor, Peter Capaldi's doctor, talking about the guy who goes back in time to speak to Beethoven.
Yep.
And get Beethoven he wants Beethoven to sign his stuff, but no, Beethoven isn't anybody. So he writes all of Beethoven's stuff. And then it's like, who actually wrote all of Beethoven's works? This is the same thing because OB wrote the TVA manual based off of Victor Timely's notes from when he started getting his ideas when he was a child in 1860 whatever. But the whole reason Victor Timely started getting those ideas for inventing things like the temporal loom is because Ravona and Miss Minutes gave him a copy of the TVA manual. It's exactly the bootstrap paradox. I love it. I love it.
Yep.
So
I'm surprised I didn't see a little blue box floating around somewhere.
yeah,
like,
really. Yeah.
Don't think you should be
Yeah.
messing with that, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, all of this crap is going on, but Loki keeps getting pulled from different points in time. He's time slipping, not to be confused with the time warp. And the time slip mentioned in that song, I'm sure that's something completely different. And he thinks it's completely random and there's no logic to it, but then he realizes it is, and then he has to figure out how to control it. And then he uses that to travel further and further back in time to like learn things like temporal physics, so that he could help try to help with this whole loom thing. And then we get the groundhog thing of sending Victor Timely out to try to install the piece that they need to install to help the loom expand so that it can hold more of the timelines. And it turns out that that's a moot point because you can't factor for infinity math. And it turns out that Loki has to be the one to fix it. So he literally has to go out and physically grab all of the timelines and manhandle them himself. Eventually taking the throne that was He Who Remains, but instead of it being a loop, it now looks very much like a certain tree that a lot of people equate with Norse mythology. So now Loki is the god of time, essentially, keeping the timelines intact best as possible. But now that leaves us with, what does this mean for the MCU going into the future? And I think Holly and I are on a similar brainwave that if Marvel decides to drop Jonathan Majors, which they have not officially yet, probably because they're waiting on what happens in the court system.
Correct.
Because Jonathan has got himself into some legal trouble.
Yes.
But right now it's very much a he said, she said type thing. So I think Marvel is going to let the courts figure it out and let the evidence speak for it, probably. And then based on that, I guess they'll decide what they want to do with Jonathan. But this could potentially give them an out if Jonathan Majors gets dropped and let Loki take over and rework the Kang storyline so that it's now Loki instead. So, or they could always recast for Kang as well, which I still think they might. I think regardless of what happens, because right now, well, obviously we had the strikes, so stuff was on hold anyway. But now that stuff is picked back up, they're going to have to make a decision regarding that character. And
pretty quick.
Yes, we did get a room full of Kangs in Quantumania, and they all had Jonathan Majors' face. But that's not to say that they can't be like, oh, well, this is just another variant that has a different face. And have that.
Possible.
If they.
Yeah. I mean, they also probably want to get Fantastic Four in. And they want to have like Doctor Doom. there has been talk of that
Mm-hmm.
being a thing. So, I mean, they could simply pick something else and decide,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is what we're going to do instead, because they really haven't had a really great grasp of this plot line. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're kind of sort of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And it's like, you guys spent all that money on Fox, so you can have the X-Men and the Fantastic Four back.
Mm-hmm.
And those are historically and traditionally some of the most popular, especially the Fantastic Four. Like, I want to say it was in the 70s. I've been watching some YouTube videos on some
Mm-hmm.
things, stuff like that. Like, the Fantastic Four is kind of what, well, started Marvel's sort of resurgence in the 70s, I want to say.
Oh
And
yeah, that
yeah,
was
so,
the characters
yeah,
that Stan Lee, when he
yeah,
thought that he was going to give up working in comics,
yeah.
he
And they
decided to go
really,
for it because his wife was all like, "Oh, if you're going to leave anyway, do what the hell you want," and that's what he came up with, was the
yeah,
Fantastic Four, and it. So
yeah.
yeah, they're
And
considered Marvel's first family.
yeah, and they really have not had good a good adaptation for the Fantastic Four,
At
unfortunately.
least live action.
Yeah, in live action, like
Yeah.
the one with the where I would say the best, and I'd use best in air quotes, was the first one with Chris Evans and
Mm-hmm.
uh, Jessica
Joan
Alba,
Gufford and
Joan Grofud.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Chiklis.
Yeah, so that one was okay. It was kind of in that time when, anyway. So it's like they really need to do something good with that,
Mm-hmm.
and they really haven't had a chance to do it. So it's like, come on, guys, you can pick this up and do it. This is your
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, and you're kind of not taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Is the big
And I still think that they could make that work. My theory from last episode, talking about the Marvels, and how my theory is that the X-Men are going to be brought into what we consider our universe, Earth 616, and the X-Men are going to be not from one particular universe, but I think multiple. I think they're going to pull various X-Men from different universes, because then that gives them way more wiggle room as far as casting and picking which X-Men you want to bring into live action. Because it's like, yeah, we could do the same crew that we are used to, especially those of us that grew up with the cartoon. We all want Storm and Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean Grey and Jubilee,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
and Charles Xavier. But it's like, there's so many mutants out there that have never gotten representation other than in the comics.
Yeah.
So that, and if you pull from various universes, you can
Well,
easily justify and kind of hand wave casting and bringing in certain characters. And I think teaming that up with the fact that the timelines are kind of like, right now Loki has them stable, but who's to say he can do that for the foreseeable eternity? Even as a demigod, he's going to have his limits. So, and we already have the idea of the multiverse anyway with Doctor Strange, so why can't we have some sort of like weird, take what happened with Doctor Strange / the last Spider-Man, and have the timelines do something, whatever you want to call it, like what did they call it in Doctor Strange, a convergence, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And have that happen on a much larger scale, and have that be the big bad thing. It's not necessarily a particular enemy or bad guy. It's just the fact that the multiverse is kind of collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
And people are ending up in wrong universes, and characters are getting pulled from this, that, and the other thing. And they've got to figure out how to fix it. And then you can easily, if it's, if you want to bring Kang / He Who Remains / whatever name you want to give him with a different actor and just be like, this is a different variant. That's why he doesn't look like Jonathan Majors. Great. If they want to forget Kang completely and just be like, well, that all died when, all of his variants started dying off when Sylvie killed He Who Remains, and they become casualties of the timelines going bonkers or something, some sort of hand wavy thing.
Right.
Or whatever. And it's Loki instead, bring Loki back, but he's not the bad guy this time. He's the one trying to fix everything. And maybe in the process of that, we end up with, we get our X-Men coming in from other places. We get our Fantastic Four coming in from a different universe. We get a, whatever big bad. It's like, do we need Doctor Doom again? They've done him twice. Maybe we'll give the Silver Surfer another shot. I don't know. Galactus. I still think they need to do Galactus. He's a really big bad too. So maybe that's how we end up with a big bad like Galactus as, the big, Thanos equivalent in the future. So I'm spitballing here.
Galactus is probably a better option. Like a Thanos level thing than Kang, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not in charge, clearly.
Yeah. None of us are, unfortunately. But Kevin Feige, if you're listening, email us.
It's like, look, we can help you fix this problem. We know you're kind of in a rut here.
Yeah.
We have some ideas.
Yeah.
You just
what's the company? Yeah. No, what's the company? It's like, you've got questions, we've got answers. That's like their tagline.
Yeah. I can't remember. That's from way back. That's
back. Yeah.
Whoever that is, that's us now.
Yeah.
It may not be. They might not be good answers, but at least we got ideas.
Hey, it can't be any worse than what you guys have been doing. Let's just be real.
Quiz fucking
Radio Shack. That's who.
Shack. Yes.
Yeah, you got questions, we get answers. Radio Shack. That's just showing our age, isn't it?
Is Radio Shack even a thing anymore?
In some places, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
They're holding on.
What it used to be.
They're holding on by their fingernails, just like Jonathan Majors is probably trying to hold on to his Marvel contract. Oh my! And it's just it's kind of it's like I'm not gonna I'm kind of like Marvel. It's like I'm gonna wait and see what the courts and the evidence says before I pass any judgment. But I will say I really enjoy him in this role. I think he was really good. I mean, he was, very much, intimidating in a way, in a odd, super villain kind of way. When we're finally introduced to him at the end of season 1, I think he was great in Quantumania as that variant, and I think as Victor Timely, he did he's done a really good job of taking these variants and giving each one its own personality. Victor Timely, while he's a bit of a con artist, he's not necessarily a bad guy. He's just, he needs some encouragement. It's obviously he's a bit socially awkward. And I think Jonathan Majors is great in this role and has done a really good job up to this point. It just sucks when you kind of hang your hat on someone as a major villain down the line, and then they go and do something that gets them in trouble.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Yeah. Like, if I was given an opportunity like that, I would do everything that I can on a daily basis to make sure that I don't do anything to screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I was gonna lock myself in my room and stay there until they say I need to go somewhere else, you know?
Well,
Mhm.
that's the life of a celebrity. You gotta
Yeah.
go out and do things, and people just, I don't know.
Yeah. It's the human condition is what it is. At the end of the day, we're all human and we're bound to do stupid shit. So
Happens.
it's just, you know, those of us that aren't celebrities, we do it in the privacy of our own home, so nobody knows about it except, like, you know, your cat, if you have one.
Yeah. Mhm.
I did some stupid shit when I was younger, but nobody saw it except my cat. So
Mhm.
it,
And there
I'm,
were no electronic recording devices to
yeah.
record said stuff.
Exactly. It's like only my cat knows, and you know,
Mhm.
I miss him very much, but he's no longer with us and has not been for a while, so you know, he took all that to the grave. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's not saying anything.
I'm off the hook. As much as I miss my cat. So anyway, that's my spitball and 2 cents. Anybody got any
Yep.
Eh,
opinions on this, that, and the other thing? It's the next, I think we could safely say the next probably 5-ish years of the MCU are going to be quite interesting.
Yep.
As
what
the
happened?
things that were already in production get finished, and you know, the stuff that had been announced at one point, they'll have to decide what to do about things, and you know, we could sit here and play armchair movie
Yeah.
producer, but you know, at the end of the day, we're not the ones getting paid to make these decisions, and I don't want to be in Kevin Feige's position, really.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-mm.
Like, I'm more happy to hang around for the fun stuff, but not the not fun stuff.
Mhm.
Like, that's why they pay you the big bucks and not me. I just talk about stuff on the internet.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, if any of our listeners want to chime in on their thoughts on Loki season 2 or anything else we've discussed today, you can send us some feedback. Our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also visit our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com. And there has links to all of our social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, places that you can leave comments, interact with us. You can also download the podcast wherever you find your podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere.
Mhm.
So check that out, and you can also support the podcast by visiting our Patreon or our merch shop, or both. I mean, you know, the gift giving season has arrived. So if you
Mhm.
need a little something something for whoever, then check us out. And of course, we thank you for listening, your continued support, and as always, we're just here, and we're glad that you're here too. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah, but
Yes, sirree, Bob.
so everybody,
Have a good rest of your week, and catch y'all on the next episode. I know a lot of places it's starting to get very cold, so stay warm. So
absolutely.
think warm thoughts. And on that
Mhm.
note, we
Bundle
shall
up.
We shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Funny. I didn't remember my memory being wiped. Thank you for listening to the Fiveish Fangirls. Please visit thefivishfangirls.com for details on how to further support the show, along with information on our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back. We love our Fiveish fam and appreciate all of your feedback, shares, and encouragement. Remember to keep letting your geek flag fly.